Hi, this is Karen, and this is Charlie Cheddar Pickles. He's going to be joining us today. I am doing a movie review on The Big Short, and it's based on a true story of unethical banking and corruption. I think this movie had the potential to be really, really boring, but I think it was funny and informative, and it was really sad at the same time. I enjoyed the cast in the movie. I think there's a lot of really good and talented actors. I'm really not sure if it was like a movie or a documentary. I think it was mostly like a hybrid of the two, but it was mostly meant to be for entertainment. I like how the movie kind of just like stops and explains some of the terms that regular people like wouldn't necessarily understand. And it reminds me a little bit of like The Wolf of Wall Street, kind of like that type of movie. It's a little dark too, I would say. But anyways, I have seen bits and pieces of this film, but I was never really like too interested enough to like actually sit down and watch it, although I'm like kind of interested in real estate, so I don't know why I hadn't watched it before. But anyways, I think the interesting part of this is that although I wasn't impacted by the housing market of 2008, I saw some of it develop within my family. And I think the fact that it didn't impact me directly just kind of like is the reason why it wasn't like really interesting to me. But I can see that like if it would have hit me directly, then I'd probably care a little bit more. After watching this film though, it's just kind of like a little bit enraging that that stuff happened, but I don't know if we're like set up for it not to happen again. But anyways, I think some of the characters were betting on what could happen if the market crashed, and you could see that their morals would like kind of kick in, because although they really wanted to be right and get rich, they also knew that people would get hurt in the process. So it's almost like, you know, they didn't want it to happen, although they did want to get rich. One of the scenes that really stuck with me in the movie was the stripper scene. Because there's this young lady who like obviously has an income, but she can't prove it because she works for cash. So these greedy banks just take her word for it and start issuing her loans, and they give her as many as she wants without even trying to figure out if she can afford them or not. So I think this is a prime example of how like a little bit of evil can snowball into something big. I think relating it back into the class, it reminds me of that Stanford study where the young men just went crazy when they didn't have any supervision and they had a lot of power. So it kind of seems like the same thing. I think banks were getting greedy and they were starting to collect their money or their profits on the issuance of these loans, and then they would just like turn around and sell them. So for them, it was just like kind of like turning product. And I think just sitting down and watching this movie, it was just kind of like upsetting to me. But it did do a good job at like turning the biggest economic downturn and making me like realize what could happen if there's no oversight. It also did remind me of the Boeing case when like no one's watching and they're just kind of doing whatever they want. But I think in the end, like power was still the winner in this case, because the banks, although we thought were too big to fail, they did in fact fail. But like nobody really like went to jail for it. Like in the end, the consumers were the ones who paid with their tax dollars. So I thought that was kind of like BS. And just like bringing it back to the changing environments, I think this movie shows how times can change, and struggles like this one will give us the opportunity to better evaluate our choices and create some oversight when it's needed. I think the mortgage industries are like a lot more careful now when they try to issue loans, and they require more than just like the promise that you're going to pay. I'm not sure if I love or hate this movie, but it's definitely one of the two. I just haven't decided yet.